Okay, let's call this special meeting of the Commissioners Court to order, October 21st. Let's all rise for the invocation, please. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for all your blessings, Lord. We thank you for wisdom and strength as we go about the business of Brewster County. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. Pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
No cheating.
That Mo was looking
That
out,
was damn right.
and I was ready to sit down after them.
All right, good morning, everybody. We got some handouts coming, so we're gonna do a couple of things before we get the handouts. Looks like we have one public comment this morning. Yes, sir. You might tell the court who you are and everything.
Yes, sir. My name is Jarrett Vickers. I'm an administrator at Alpine ISD.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, good morning. My name is Jarrett Vickers. I'm a district administrator with Alpine ISD. I appreciate the opportunity to speak today on behalf of our school district regarding two important concerns. First, we're concerned about the current tax year collection rates before accounts are referred to delinquency attorneys, as illustrated in the chart I provided. In tax year 2022, the collection rate was 96.10%. And you can see that in the purple boxes there. In tax year 2023, it dropped to 92.47%, a decrease of 3.63%. And then in tax year 2024, it further declined to 91.67%, totaling nearly a 5% drop over the last 2 years. Each percentage point of taxes not collected by the county equates to approximately $80,000 in lost revenue from Alpine ISD from the state, leaving the district unable to access more than $300,000 for student and staff initiatives. We respectfully urge the county assessor and collector's office to explore best practices from similar counties to identify ways to improve collection rates. We understand that at present time, only annual tax statements are mailed out. While Alpine ISD does not have all the solutions, we want to work collaboratively to address an issue that significantly impacts our students and programs. Second, we're concerned about the ability of our delinquent tax attorneys to collaboratively and effectively address outstanding issues, particularly in South County, where, to our understanding, approximately 75% of the properties on the delinquent tax roll for Alpine ISD are located. Thank you for your time, consideration, and commitment to supporting the educational mission of Alpine ISD. If we can do anything to further support, let us know. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr.
Thank
Vickers. You're gonna stay for the meeting?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. All right, let's do number 5A real quick, little housekeeping item. I kind of threw this in there because I want to get this approved so we can get started. This is a review and discuss and take action to approve a contract between Brewster County and Paradise Construction for the shade cover, in South County. And the contract, it should be in your file. It's not.
We don't have any files.
No, we didn't.
It's much needed. We've talked about it for, for 10 years.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
The size of the
30,
How many?
30 by 50, 30 by 50, 14 foot
Mhm.
west side, 3 foot on the top for the wind to go through.
Mhm.
And then there's gonna be, let me see, 8 foot of 10, and then 3 feet on the bottom, or 7 foot of 10 and 4 feet on the bottom.
Okay.
So to let the wind, not put up the umbrella, hopefully.
it's gonna face east, kind of like the airplane hangars there at Fulshire Field.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna build an enclosed space on one end of it.
10 by 10.
10 by 10, so we can store oil and fluids and
With a metal door.
metal door.
Nice. Like that.
Yeah. The contractor is prepared to go and they've got insurance, workers' comp and liability insurance. Maybe the county is additional insured. So we've got that.
It's set in concrete, right?
It
And
is
the same kind,
Okay,
4-foot pillars.
nice. Okay.
Using I-beam.
That should hold it down.
Yeah, and using I-beam because for the
We're
construction.
gonna be pretty wind bomber down there. And we do get some winds down there.
Oh, yeah.
So I'd entertain a motion to approve that contract.
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion and second, any discussion?
Is Paradise Construction local or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll, after the court, I'll send you guys a copy of it.
Thank you.
Motion and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, number 6, which is the meat of what we're doing today. And during the budget workshop, let me get a little prep here. We talked a little bit about sources of revenue for the county, which obviously ad valorem property taxes is number 1, followed by sales tax, and then our PILT payments that we get from the federal government. Those are really our 3 sources of income. Being the revenue judge that I am, we're always looking for new dollars in any way we can to help ever increasing expenses. One of the things that came up during our budget session was sort of the process of collections. And so I met with Daniel with Linebarger, who's our partner. I think he's about to be on the screen, and asked him to come and give a talk. And y'all, I know probably have heard this and it may be a little bit of a repeat, but kind of want to walk through with the court what happens, on February 1st, if you don't pay your taxes, you are effectively past due. At that point, then penalties and interest can begin to accrue. And in my understanding is that from the time you go past due to the time the property actually sits on the courthouse steps is somewhere in the 12 to 15 months. And I'll let Daniel get into that. But I thought maybe we might start by working through the process and see to discuss maybe where our bottlenecks are, what our challenges are. There are challenges, particularly down south with all the property that we have and titles and all that sort of thing. So that's kind of the direction. And then this is free form, open discussion, questions, that sort of thing. So Daniel, are you on?
I am, Judge. Can you hear me okay?
You got some handouts, Jenny?
Can you hear me okay, Judge?
You.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Judge. Can you hear me? Hello, Judge. Can you hear me?
Have I ever made a public comment about how really I don't like Zoom? Have I ever told you that?
Judge, can you hear me okay?
I'm Luddite.
It's the
County
worst.
judge, y'all left it
Ones
alone.
out there.
Judge, can you hear me?
I've never seen a Zoom call in the history of Zoom calls that hasn't had one technological issue with it. Ever.
Judge, can you hear me? Hello, Judge. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Judge?
Yeah,
Yes.
we can. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. I was able to hear throughout the whole thing. Just are you hearing me okay now again?
Yeah, Leah, you might turn it down just a hair.
She's got the remote.
Yeah, you got it. Jenny, you might turn it on. All right, Daniel, are you on the front of a camera?
Yes, I am. I can see you guys, but it's not showing me for some reason.
Yeah.
But I can see you guys. It's just showing, but on my end, it doesn't show myself, it just shows it blank. But can you hear me? Can you hear
That
me for the
video,
moment?
is that our video or their video? Looks like it is. Yeah.
Would you like me to leave and join back on?
But give us 1 second, see if we can figure it out on our end. If not, we'll.
Okay.
He needs to turn on his video.
Yeah, Daniel, looks like you need to turn on, somehow your video is off.
Yeah, it shows on. I've been clicking on and off and it shows that I'm on.
Why don't you go out of the meeting and come back in, maybe it'll pop in.
I'll do that.
I'll rest my case.
Starting to sound like a judge
Mhm.
or a
You
lawyer, I
should
should
see, you
say.
should see doing court cases by Zoom.
That fun or what? Three?
By Zoom? Recently or that some year? I bet that was a nightmare.
Yesterday was a thing, or the trades for taxes. Yeah, but nothing happened.
I'm back in, Judge. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine. Looks like the video's not working, but.
Yeah, it shows me on. It's not.
All right, well, we at least we got your voice. We know that you're out there somewhere and.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
All right, so let's do this. Why don't you take us, start on February 1st. Greg Hennington hasn't paid his taxes.
Yes, sir.
And it's February 1st. Start with me on February 1st and work us through. Let's assume Greg never pays his taxes for the rest of his life. He's broke, doesn't have any money, doesn't want to pay his taxes, whatever the reason is. Talk to me from there.
Yes, sir. So at that point, okay, so you would have been mailed your tax statement in October of the previous year. Those would have been for the taxes that were assessed the previous year. And like you said, those become delinquent after January 31st of the following year. Let's say, so February comes around, as you said, and you hadn't paid your taxes. We start requesting the delinquent tax roll for the county. It shows those who have become delinquent on February 1st. Your name would pop up on that notice, on that delinquent tax roll. What we would do on our end is that on our end we sort out the delinquent tax roll in a method that provides us with the best strategy to collect those delinquent taxes. And so normally, let's say, of course, you're not going to be the only one, and you're not going to be the only one that has not paid your taxes for just that 1 year. So we have an aggregate of delinquent taxes on that delinquent tax roll. We sort those out on our end and what we call a target roll, and we'll sort those out top to bottom, and look at the amounts owed for each person or business, and start strategizing as to how we're going to go about collecting those and which ones we are going to address and give priority to. Once we get those, there is we have a mailing our first mailing that goes out, notifying the taxpayer that they're delinquent. It's a letter that is mailed out in both Spanish and English. It's a customizable letter that we go through with the tax assessor collector as to how part of the language wants to read, that right down to the color of the paper that wants to be used on it. That would go to you, notify, and the other taxpayers, notify them of their delinquency. At the same time that we do that, when we have that delinquent tax roll, we send that over to our bankruptcy department, that's located in San Antonio. It's a dedicated bankruptcy department. And I don't know if you have the handout that I sent you yet, that I sent over to Jenny.
Yeah.
There were two handouts. And I hope they printed out okay, but so you'll, without having to go through all of that in detail, it gets kind of convoluted, but there's a number of research methods that the bankruptcy team goes through and looks at account by account to make sure that the debtor, the delinquent taxpayer, is not in bankruptcy. And if they are, where they're at in the bankruptcy, and whether or not we need to appear as a debtor in their bankruptcy, which we would do obviously. In the event that the bankruptcy court finds that it should be held, and that there's a payout in the bankruptcy court, then it's flagged in our system so that we hold off on collections until the debtor begins their payment options through the bankruptcy court. And at times of course, we'll have to include the bankruptcy court in it. And if you want to go through there, you'll see that through the bankruptcy options, of course, through federal court, they're allowed to have time to appeal it, to respond to claims collections, to object if necessary, and how to apply for assistance, and so forth. In the event that payment is received, and which ours, and I'll say this just as a side note, the ad valorem taxes, they are a first priority lien. So they are always included in the creditor section, the debtor section in the bankruptcy proceedings. And if those are paid through bankruptcy court, then we recode those in our system so that we don't send out further mailings, and also that we don't send out further mailings in violation of the bankruptcy court's rulings. In the event that those are not paid, or that they are not in bankruptcy, which is a really crucial step that really has to be done just so that debtors aren't being mailed on erroneously, then those get flagged for us to go to collections.
What percentage of the past dues though are ultimately in bankruptcy? It's a pretty small percentage, isn't it?
It's a very small percentage in your county. In Ector County, it's much higher, but it's more on the business personal property side of it. Just because we have so many LLCs that, in the oil and gas industry, of course, that are shutting their doors every 4 years, 3-4 years. So, but in your county, no, Judge.
Okay.
There aren't that many.
All right. So I think I got the bankruptcy thing down. That's a complicated mess. But let's go back to February 1st. Let's go back to February 1st. No bankruptcy. You check it. I'm not in bankruptcy. Maybe I forgot to pay. Maybe I've been on like a 9-month vacation. So I get a letter. When do I get that letter from the tax assessor? It says, "Hey, Greg, you didn't pay your taxes." When do I get that letter?
So the first letter that you would get from us would be 30 days would be 30 days after the taxes become delinquent, notifying the taxpayer of their delinquency.
All right. So on March 1st-ish, I get a letter says, "Hey, you didn't pay your taxes."
Yes. And so what you'll also get is you'll get a letter from the tax office themselves that's separate and apart from us in most cases. But in Brewster County, we're the ones that do the mailing for Brewster, notifying the taxpayer that they're delinquent.
Okay. So the letter is coming out of your office or out of Sylvia's?
It's coming out of our office. It's coming out of our office with our letterhead on it. And our contact information. And then again, that's only after it's filtered through the bankruptcy process and through any, and to make sure that there aren't any exemptions, and to make sure that we go through a process to make sure that there wasn't any double assessment, that we have the right account. So that's essentially filtered out before we send that letter of delinquency out.
Okay, and then you said at the beginning, you organize these from kind of high priority to low priority. Is that based on how much taxes are due?
Yes, yes, that is, and you know, and I believe, you know, you and I have spoke on this before. You know, there are some, obviously, of course, that are going to come up that the dollar amount of taxes owed on it might be $8. You know, and so obviously that goes down to the bottom of our target row. And we try to concentrate on on an amount that's worthwhile for both you and us, of course. Um, but that's why we look at that delinquent tax roll, and that's why we sort it the way we do on our end. And then we determine, you know, what percentage top to bottom. If a majority of the delinquencies are 500 and up, that's what we target. That's what we'll mail on. You know, every county is different, every entity is different, but that's what we do. That just so that we have an idea of, okay, when we code it in our system, we're coding it from $500 and up, and we're going to mail on all of those that were turned over to us for collections. That's the number we're starting at.
If somebody owes $300, do we still send out a letter just for giggles and grins to see if maybe they just missed it?
Yes, that's the first letter that goes out with all of them.
Okay.
Anybody who is delinquent.
All right, so by March 1st, you've checked the bankruptcy, you've checked the ownership, you've checked to make sure there's not a tax deferment already in place. You've checked to see that there's not some other exemption. You've checked to see that there's no error in calculation or double billing. So all that's kind of been sorted out in that. How long does it take for you to get the list after the past due on February 1st? When do you get that list? Sylvia,
It's essentially immediately after it's requested. If it's within just a day or two.
do you pull it up?
Essentially.
Do you have access to the system, or Sylvia has to send it to you?
I try to wait at least a week because payments are still being processed that are coming in through the mail.
Okay.
So I wanna make sure that everything is posted before we send the attorneys the delinquent tax roll. Make sure payments have been updated.
Okay, so on March 1st, letters are going out. I'm getting my first letter. It's pink. Says, hey, did you forget to pay your taxes? It's probably a real simple, I'm guessing a simple little letter. It says, did you forget, right?
Right. We on our end, we essentially call them oversight letters. That's what we refer to them in our office. Was this an oversight, et cetera. And typically what we see, and this kind of goes with, you know, with most of our clients, you'll have somewhere around 50% of the people pay off that after the first letter from us. So it really thins down, and then what we do is, you know, we will request the delinquent tax roll to get a cleaner tax roll after that, to see who has paid off and who hasn't. Again, we go through the steps of creating our target roll on our end and seeing what has been cleaned up, what has been swept up after that first mailing, and then we start going from there.
Let me ask Sylvia a question. Sylvia, if I come in on the 15th of February and I owe you taxes, I'm going to pay a penalty on that, right?
Yes, sir.
The interest hasn't accrued at this point, but just penalty, right? And I can't waive that penalty.
Interest.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it's a certain percentage for penalty and then a certain percentage for interest, but yes, sir.
And there's no wiggling out of that. I have to pay that penalty and interest.
No, we're not that hardcore. I mean, if you come in and say you had a death in the family and that just threw you off, you've been in the hospital. I mean, we work with you, we're gonna collect it.
Right.
You know, but if you have, you know, a reasonable excuse, then yes.
Okay.
You know, we will waive it, but it depends on, you know, what that is.
Right.
And I can understand a death or.
Yeah, okay, all right, so you've got a little room. The key is we want our taxes. We're not really in the business of getting penalties and interest. Okay. All right. Now we're at March 1st. I still don't pay. Now what happens, Daniel?
So at that point, we will send another letter, which is, the wording of it is a little bit more aggressive in nature. Letting them know that, um, that, that the taxes are owed and the penalties and interest are accruing, that we are now, looking at the account for possible litigation purposes and further collection purposes.
And that goes out about when? April 1st?
That normally will go, what we'll send out is, we'll send that normally in May. So that's usually our second mailing. That mailing will also include any business personal property taxes that were turned over to us. And that will include that if there's any, which usually there's not any in conjunction with that. But yes, the second mailing goes out usually at the end of April, beginning of May. And again, like I said, that one's worded a little bit more aggressively, saying these taxes are still delinquent. Make arrangements by contacting us or the tax office, and those go out again to those that have been whittled out after the first mailing, and so forth.
So really, there's about a 60-day window from the time I get my first letter on March 1st. I don't see another one until you're telling me the end of May.
Right. And so what we do is, what we normally do is we'll also during the interim period of that time, we're making phone calls to taxpayers. We're trying to contact them at numbers that have gone through our skip tracing program. And what we do is, and I did miss a step. We do try to mail one out in March, and we try to do that for the main reason is because people are getting their tax returns, and we know that they're having a little bit extra money to start paying their taxes. And Sylvia can probably attest, you know, in March and April, there's a great uptick on the amount of taxes that start getting paid when people start getting their income tax returns. And
What percentage of the mail outs for delinquent taxes bounce because of a bad address, would you say, roughly?
ooh, okay. So I'll limit it just to Brewster County. Um, I would say, um, in South Brewster, I would say we get uh, probably somewhere in the 60 to 70% either unknown or bad addresses.
Holy geez. Okay. All right. All right. We'll come back to that in a minute. So in April, letter goes out in March. You're going to do some calling. Hopefully people get their taxes from their refunds. And then
Yes.
at the end of April, toward the end of April, you're going to get letter number 2. All right. Now I still haven't paid. Now I'm in June, or excuse me, I'm in May. Now what?
In May, you'll get, like I said, you'll get another mailing at the end of May. Again, which it basically apprises them of exactly what is about to happen. And we call it a notice of intent to sue. And that's mailed out after, and we send those out on the ones where we have determined that we have good addresses. Those go out as soon as we vet those out and make sure that we have the good addresses. Those go out to them. While at the same time, we're still in the process of doing more address research, still receiving our return mail, still communicating with the tax office to see if there's anybody that has come in to address any mailings and statements that we've sent to them. But there's never a point where we're not trying to clear up bad addresses. On our end, we have a dedicated call center, a dedicated skip tracing center that we literally have spent millions on over the years and updated all the time to make sure that state of the art. There's, so it never stops going through the skip tracing program for us. We're trying to clear it up. It's a national database that we go through, that we have partnered with multiple agencies to strengthen our address verification research. And that never stops. It continues on and continues on, continues on. I will say in the last couple of years, there's a number of agencies that we have partnered with that at some, and it's on our end that we incur the expense for the multiple times we run that through the skip tracing programs on our own end, and also in conjunction with theirs.
Okay,
But
so all these letters that go out, are they sent just regular mail or are they sent certified mail?
they're sent regular mail, and they go out on our letterhead, in our envelope, and with our post, and we cover the postage on that, of course.
Is the letter actually got the tax assessor's name at the bottom, or does it have your name at the bottom?
It has the tax assessor's information essentially in the middle of the letter, and our information at the bottom. It's on our letterhead. It has the account number. It has the amount owed. It it basically breaks it up. And that letter is, again, it's customizable through each, with each entity. With some of ours, they prefer, especially on the fees and spine side, they prefer that the calls could come to us and to our call centers, because the JPs, we don't want them, and they don't want to be inundated with a bunch of calls as soon as they get mailings from us. And that's the same on the delinquent tax side. But no, it'll contain both. And again, it'll be in both Spanish and English.
Okay, and the taxpayer can come in, I get my letter, I go, oh, I forgot to pay my taxes. I can either mail it to you, or I can come in and see Sylvia. I've got lots of ways to pay it.
Correct.
Can I pay it online?
You can pay it online. Yes, sir.
Okay, and the fees associated with that are charged to the customer?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So now we'll keep moving, because I know we got more to go here. We're in June now.
Yep.
So nobody's paid yet.
Yeah, so we're still following up with the tax office to see what payments are being made. Still making phone calls to those that have still got unpaid on our end, and we're still researching for good addresses and trying to clean up bad addresses. And then right there at this point, we're now getting into July, and in July, that is when really kind of the most aggressive part of it starts taking place. In July, there's a letter that we send out, and it's notifying the delinquent taxpayer that at this point now a tax lien has been attached to the property. So it notifies them again of the delinquency. And again, this one is worded more aggressively than the last. And it tells them, and at the top of it, it no longer says oversight or reminder to pay. This one says at the top in bold, notice of tax lien. This tells them that, and it apprises them of, of course, what a lien means, that it has attached, that there's nothing that you can do forward with your property until the delinquent taxes has been paid. And that goes out. That one goes out again after we have again triple checked by this point that the address is good, that we haven't gotten any return letters on it, that they haven't called the tax office and paid or made payments, or that they haven't called the tax office or gone into the tax office and made signed a payment agreement. So that's where that stands on that.
Now, Daniel, is this letter telling me that the lien has been placed, or is it telling me I'm about to get a lien placed?
No, on July 1st, the lien attaches to any of those delinquent tax accounts.
Okay. So the lien goes in. Okay.
Yes, and so and as I mentioned, then we make sure that that these people aren't on a payment agreement. The payment agreements, and you and I have talked about this before. most of those are done through the tax office. And we monitor those, and because in the tax agreement, that the payment agreement that they sign, um, they are put on notice that if they become in default after 30 days, they will get a default letter from our office saying that they're in violation of the payment agreement, and that the full amount is now owed, or we intend to sue.
Okay, we'll come back to payment agreements in a minute. Does the, if I've got two letters that went out and they both bounced with the 60% return rate, can I still put a lien on the property based on the fact that I tried to get a hold of them and I couldn't?
No, well, not until July 1st, when the lien by statute automatically attaches
Okay,
on July 1st.
so two letters have gone out, they've both bounced. We can't get a hold of them. We're still trying to skip trace them. We still can't get a hold of them, but we can attach a lien on July 1st regardless.
Right. And,
Okay.
and in addition to the lien attaching, what also they are notified is that now attorney's fees have attached as well. And in Brewster County, it's at 20%. And that 20% is passed on to the delinquent taxpayer. It's not something that's charged back to the county. That is according to statute. It's a budget neutral add-on fee that does not affect your bottom line.
Right.
That's the fee for the collection efforts that gets passed on to the delinquent taxpayer, and
Now
that's what they're notified of in July, and that usually will get a lot of attention from the delinquent taxpayer.
All right, that lien is recorded at the county clerk, right?
Well, no, so it's not a lien in that essence where it's filed in that manner. It's a statutory lien that
Okay.
automatically attaches, that allows us to start attaching our attorney's fees to it, and notifies them of the penalties and interest that are accruing every month. So
Just
no,
out of curiosity, if somebody was to try to sell that property after you attached a statutory lien to it, would the title company pick that up?
yes, they would.
Okay. So in other words, if I tried to sell the property in July with a lien, with your statutory lien on it, I couldn't just take the money and run. I'd have to settle that lien.
No,
If-
yes,
They wouldn't
yes.
know if they didn't go through a title company.
Yes, they would, it would show up on the, of course, in the tax office that they are delinquent and a lien has attached to it.
Commissioner Colombo said unless they didn't go through a title company, it just sold it to a
John
third
at the
party.
bar.
Yeah, John at the bar. I guess. But that lien carries, right? So it does.
It does.
Right.
It
So
does, and that's a first priority lien.
It's a super lien. Yeah, we're priority. Okay, all right, keep going. Now we've got the lien file. We're in July. Now what?
So in July, we sent them that notice. We will still again keep working the delinquent tax roll, refreshing the delinquent tax roll, refreshing our target row, still making phone calls. We are offering, at this point, we're talking to them. We're offering, we're telling them, hey, do you want to enter into a payment agreement? And we're still working each delinquent account at this point. And so at that point, we're sitting on, and usually on every 30 days after that, after 30 days after that, we will send what is called a notice of intent to sue letter. That's typically, we mail that out in August, and we're giving them, that letter says at the top of that in bold letters, notice of intent to sue. Dear taxpayer, this is what is owed. We are giving you 30 days from the date of this letter to make good on these delinquent taxes, or we will file suit.
Okay, let's stop right there. Let's say that you finally got my attention with the lien letter in July, and I come in and I say, look, I don't have the money to pay the taxes. right now, but could I make a monthly payment? Right?
Yes.
That, who do I go to make that month? Who do I go to negotiate that monthly payment? You or Sylvia?
Either one of us take, it can be happen that way. And normally they will have at this point our number mostly, but particularly in Brewster, they would normally go straight to the tax office to explore the payment agreement options, which would have already normally have been explained to them by someone from our office, telling them the terms. Those terms are dictated by the tax office, but typically what most tax offices, most entities will do, they'll ask for 10% of the total amount due and normally give them maybe 24 months to pay it out. We do have some that will go to 36 months, but that varies from entity to entity. But typically it's a 24-month period that they have to pay, but they have to pay the 10% down. And if a client wants them to pay 20% down, that's what they can do as well. They can modify that standard payment agreement to their liking, but never is there a case where it's extended more than 36 months.
Okay, so I owe $1,000. I come in, I see Sylvia, I give her $100. That's my 10% down, or $200. And then let's say I give her $100, and that $900 is paid out over the next 24 to 36 months. Let's say 24.
And also could be 12 months. And if it's a smaller amount like that, it could be 12 months,
Okay.
something like
And
that.
that's $900 plus interest and penalty, right?
Correct.
Okay, so whatever it is, 10% down, some sort of payment plan not to exceed 36 months, most of them in the 24 months.
Right.
Something like that. Okay, all right. Now I'm making the payment. If I quit making the payment, so I can't even make the monthly payment, what does that do? What does that trigger? Are we back in the cycle? Am I back into threat to sue, or do we start
No,
all?
so at that point, so what we're doing at that point, let's say we have a batch of payment agreements. We'll communicate with the tax office to see, and we try to get an update on the payment agreements, at least once a month, just to see was this month's, has this month payments been made? But more often than not, we'll try to refresh it every 2 weeks just to see, so that we can kind of try to get ahead of the process on it. And if they're current on their payment agreement, we move on to the next one, and we monitor those out monthly. In the event that we have somebody that did not make their payment, we'll talk to the tax office, we'll talk to Sylvia, and we'll ask them. We'll typically ask if do they say why? Do they say when they're going to come in? It's been, we know that they didn't make that payment this month. Is there any reason that they've given you, or have they made arrangements to come in tomorrow or a week from now? And if not, what we do is we send out a default letter, a default notice, and that letter says on their notice of default on payment agreement, and it tells them you have defaulted on your payment agreement, and we are going to begin the litigation process. So no, the answer to your question, it does not start back over. It moves straight into litigation at that point. And when they sign that, they are acknowledging that on the agreement. If you are notified of default, you will be sued. And that's what they agree on. It doesn't start the timeline over. We move on straight to including them in our
How many
litigation.
defaults do I get of a payment agreement?
So we typically we only advise our tax offices and our clients to let them sign one payment agreement. There are times where in something extreme that we will let them renew a payment agreement, but and sign a new payment agreement. But then we'll typically ask for a much larger down payment to start it, and the terms are much harsher at that point. Um, but those are few and far between. And it's, if they defaulted, but they made their payment, a week after the due date on it, um, and they're 2 months away from completing their payment agreement and paying off the entire delinquency, then we will kind of look at that and see if they're going to make the next month's payment on time. Because at that point, we may be dealing with something that, again, where it's, they owe $150, they owe $75 for the next 2 months, and that's it. But at that point, it it's not at that point, attorney's fees have already attached. Penalties and interest are attached to it. So we still, at that point, it's not something that we say it's not going to be worth the cost to the cost and time to the county or to us, because our fees have already attached at this point. So even if it's 75 or $150, and of course that's less than the filing fees for a lawsuit to begin with, we'll still file a lawsuit if we deem it necessary at that point.
All right, let's keep moving. All right, we're now in August. We got an intent to sue. Still nothing happens. We'll come back to the payment agreement in a minute, but
Okay.
now I'm in August. I got a letter. You're going to sue me. What happens now?
So we've already notified them that we're going to sue them. So the first step that we take at that point is that we'll do title research on the particular property. That is to make sure that 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 every person who has an interest in that property is included in our lawsuit. That will pull up liens from, for instance, the IRS. It'll pull up liens from banks, etc. Which the ad valorem tax lien has priority over both of those, including the IRS. It's a first priority lien. But so we do the title research. That's the first step that we do. And it's an extensive amount of title research that we do. And once that title report comes back, it'll show every document, that any transfer of deed, anything, but essentially back to sovereignty, if we can, to show anybody that we need to include in the lawsuit. So when we start preparing we go through our litigation module, and we have our tax report back, our title search back. We'll include everybody in that lawsuit. And by that point, again, there's more penalties and interest that have accrued by this point. Those are also included in the lawsuit. We prepare the lawsuit. We file the lawsuit with the district clerk's office. The district clerk's office will prepare a citation. A citation is the preceding document that is attached to the front of the petition for delinquent taxes lawsuit. It states the defendant's name. There's a citation for each listed defendant. That is prepared by the district clerk's office, attached to the filed lawsuit. It is then sent for the sheriff to serve, and that begins the process of the official lawsuit process.
All right, let me ask you a question. What percentage of the title, and let's talk about Brewster County, of the titles that you search in Brewster County are messed up, so to speak? What would you say roughly? In other words,
Not clear.
yeah, not clear. There's errors, or it's in probate, or
Yeah. I would say, in Brewster itself, again, if we I don't want to break up South County from the rest of the county, of course, but
well, you have to include it. It's still part of my county.
I know, but it does jump up the percentage. But I would say again, probably somewhere in the 60% range that we have some break and chain of title where it'll say there may be a missing transfer, a missing deed, something that's not clear, some missing part of ownership that may be in it. And we may end up getting something that even though the tax roll said that this was the owner, once the title research comes back, there's a chance that it could have come back as unknown owner. And Sylvia can probably attest to this, that there are a number, and the appraisal district as well, that there's a high number of delinquent tax accounts that have unknown addresses.
Daniel, what time frame do you have from the district clerk to the sheriff for them to get back to you? From the time that you give it to the district clerk, she gives it to the sheriff, how long?
Yeah.
What is the time frame that we're losing there? Or are we losing?
I wouldn't say that we're necessarily losing time. What we've worked out with Sarah is, what we have in place now. So we will file the lawsuit. Let's say we filed the lawsuit today. It was file marked today. And I'm not sure if Sarah's in the room or not, but correct me if I'm wrong. So what we'll do is an email from our office will go to her, showing that we have e-filed this lawsuit and another lawsuit. Could you please issue citation to this defendant? Could you issue citation? Can you prepare a citation for to the Secretary of State, for instance, or an agent, if it's a business, or if someone has a designated agent for their property, and so forth. But that will go as in an email to Sarah, and typically Sarah will reply with, okay, got it, thank you. I'll get those. Should be able to get those out to you in a week, following week. But there's not much at this point. We've worked out some of the kinks that we had initially as far as getting those citations prepared.
Sarah, let me ask you a question. Is it pretty standard forms? I mean, you just plug it in. It's not like you don't have to recreate the wheel every time. You just sort of get the data, plug it into your formula, and spit out a citation, right? So what Ruben's question?
State it, some you.
Okay, all right. And then it goes to sheriff for serve. All right, so we're really talking about, Ruben's question is right. So we're in August, you get this intent to sue, and then somewhere, I guess, September, October, November, all through the fall, we're doing citations, chasing titles.
Yes.
Getting citations, chasing titles. Give me an example of how, if I owned a property in South County, owned 40 acres under Greg Hennington, how could it one day wake up unknown? What would have happened? How do you end up with land that ends up being unknown?
Well, so particularly in South County, and again, so one of the reasons that part of that has, the big problem over there is, again, goes back long before my time with Linebarger, and goes back to the way that South County was subdivided, and the way that people were selling 1 acre parcels of land in South County, and they were doing them by online sales. So people would sell those properties, not file proper deeds, or if the deeds were prepared, they weren't filed, or they were improper. Somewhere in the chain of title, it would have been something that you thought you owned that property, but going back, everything has to connect as in a chain, in essence. And if one link is missing, it's gonna come up as a break in chain of title. And, we'll talk to the appraisal district on it. We'll make sure that, there wasn't a double assessment, that it wasn't incorrect. But yeah, it can get really, really convoluted down in South County just because of the nature of the way that was subdivided and sold. Um, Obviously, nobody wishes it were that way, but um, yes, you'd be surprised at the number of people that thought they owned something outright if they ran title on it or tried to sell it. Um, it won't pass through a title company.
All right, so let me walk through this. I own a piece of property in South County and I sell my property to Jake, who's sitting in the room. He's appraisal from our appraisal district. I sell it to Jake, sign on a side deal. He gives me $10,000 in cash and I give him a warranty deed. He never does, we don't ever file it. We never come up and see Sarah at the clerk's office. He's got the land.
Yeah.
It's in my name as far as the title is concerned. You go to see the title and you hit up Greg Hennington and I say, no, I sold this to Jake.
Yeah. So
Right.
so what we'll do in that case, when it's something like that, which that does happen, both of you would be included in our lawsuit. And then the burden is on both of you to say, I don't own it. I thought I owned it. No, and so forth. So what we do is we'll include, as a result of our title research, we'll include every possible owner on it and every possible lien holder. But in the nature of litigation, once we file that petition and has those defendants, you will typically see people. They'll call our office, call me, and say, Daniel, I sold this property. I sold this property to Jake. I'll ask for the supporting document for it because I'll look at my title work on it and I'll say I don't have that. So I included both of you. Either one or both of you need to send me the document showing that it was transferred and that it was sold. And once one of you guys prove the other one wrong, and whoever's right, will file a petition to amend our lawsuit, removing that person from litigation. If Judge, if you were correct and you did sell it, and you have the document to show it, and that was your intent to sell it, then we'll remove your name from the lawsuit and move forward.
So unfortunately, the law doesn't let you just attach the lien to the property regardless of who owns it. You've got to figure out who owns it. That's kind of that's a Texas nuance, I guess.
Yes, that is the title part of this whole process is the part where you start getting log jammed, because you can't file a lawsuit, a proper lawsuit, without doing your due diligence to make sure that you've included everybody you need to include. Fortunately, there's once we file the lawsuit, we can amend our lawsuit at no additional filing fees. We can remove a defendant if we determine that they do not own the property, and that they did sell it if we get concrete proof of that fact. There'll be times where once a defendant is sued, they will call our office and say, I know you're suing me and my brothers and sisters on this. This was handed down from our parents. I live in Hawaii now. I have no interest in this. What do I need to do to not be a part of this lawsuit? So then what we do is we'll send them it's called a disclaimer. We mail that out to them, say this, we're going to mail you out a disclaimer. You're going to disclaim any ownership interest you have in this. Once we receive that back from you, we'll remove your name we'll amend our lawsuit and take you out of it. And let's say, for instance, that there's five heirs that we served, and one of them calls us saying that they don't have any interest in it. That so that to avoid us having to amend our petition 5 different times, when we talk to that person and they say they don't want to have an interest, and we'll say, can you give us some good contact information for your brothers and sisters? And do you know if they have an interest in this? And we'll be able to update our system to show better addresses, better phone numbers, better contact methods. And then we'll reach out to them and say, hey, your sister Nancy is disclaiming her interest. We have this lawsuit filed. There are 2 of you that we still have not been able to get service on. But you're about to get served now that we have a good contact information, a good address for you. Do you have an interest in this property? If they say yes, then we say, okay, well, you're included in the lawsuit. We're forwarding that to you. If they say no, we send them a disclaimer. But we do that, just like I said, so that, we don't send Sylvia a petition to amend and taking one person out, and a week later, another brother says, I don't want any, and then we have to remove him. So that we don't just keep amending lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. We'll
Okay,
try
all right, I get it. So
Yeah.
what you're telling me, Daniel, though, is I could own a piece of property in Brewster County, sell it to Jake, never tell Jake I owe any taxes on it. Jake doesn't do any research to find out I owe taxes. And
Yeah.
surprise, Jake just got himself a piece of land that's still got a lien on it for taxes, right?
Yep, the taxes
And
the taxes go with the
And
transfer.
then I can come back and disclaim it.
Well, if you pay the taxes on it, but then that would be also more of an issue between you and Jake at that point.
Yeah, of course, but still.
But of course, to get it back, if our role in it, we wouldn't have a dog in y'all's fight on it, because no matter what has to happen between you and Jake, nothing's changing until someone pays the taxes on it. And you guys can go to battle with each other as to who owns it and who doesn't, who's going to pay the taxes on it, who doesn't. So, but it's not changing. It's not going to change anything as far as what we're going to collect.
Well, if we're battling over who pays the taxes, but it's very clear that Jake got a warranty deed, you'll continue to pursue against Jake. Is that what you're saying?
I'll continue. Well, both of you until the taxes are paid, or until one of you says, I don't own it, I sold it, and they're responsible for the taxes. And Jake could say, no, I'm not responsible for it, because that wasn't told to me at the time of the purchase. And and that comes up quite a bit, and we'll tell them, I cannot give you legal advice. We'd have to tell Jake, can't give you legal advice, Jake. You'll need to hire counsel of your own choice as to how to deal with that. But at this point, both of you guys are on the hook until for the
Okay,
taxes.
all right, I get the picture.
Otherwise.
You sue everybody.
Yes.
Everybody's getting sued, and then it gets sorted out.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, all right. Now we're in fall. We're doing all this hoo-ha, getting all this stuff put together. Now we hit January 1. What happens?
Okay, well, I'll back up just a second, Judge, if I may.
Yeah.
I'd like to back up to the moment that the defendants are the moment you're served with the lawsuit. Sheriff Dotson shows up and shows, Judge, you've been sued. Here's the lawsuit. At that point, you have essentially 21 days to file an answer to it. You have to hire an attorney to file an answer, to either say, again, no, I sold it. Here's the document showing it. After 21, it's the Monday next following the expiration of 21 days. So you at that point, if you have not filed an answer, you have defaulted on the lawsuit. We code that in our system, and so whenever that's coded as a default, we start preparing a judgment against you, and that is done right after right after the amount of time that you have not filed an answer to it. We put that into another category where we start getting that ready to go to a docket, so that we could take the judgment against you. So that's one step that's happening in between there is we're going through any of the lawsuits that we filed, who defaulted, who did not answer. And that's where it goes.
All right, that's packaged up and sent up to the district judge for his signature.
Yes, what we'll do is we will go through it, we will prepare the judgment, and that also then before the judgment is prepared and filed, and it's set on the docket, again, we go through it beginning to end to make sure that every step was done, every defendant that we could find was included, everybody that should be removed from the judgment has been removed, and then we get a batch of those, and or maybe it could be just one. We go and then we call Lori at district clerk's office. Uh, Lori, when is the next docket going to be? And she'll let us know when's the next tax docket, because in Brewster, uh, Judge Kimball will do it's called a tri-county tax docket. He'll do Jeff Davis, um, and Brewster and Presidio County. And so, um, anyway, so we'll get that, and we'll say we need to add this lawsuit to the list on the docket. We're waiting on a couple of more. We're not sure if they're going to be defaults or not, but we'll call you and let you know when we need to add yet another one to the default list.
All right, so as Judge Kimball has explained it to me, basically it's sort of a checklist. If the checklist is complete, he pretty much, it's a black and white deal. He signed, either you defaulted or you didn't.
That's
You
correct.
owe the taxes or you didn't. So if the checklist is complete, he signs it and away we go. So let's say that he signs the docket, in the docket, he signs the suit. Then what happens?
So he signs the judgment saying,
I mean, the judgment suit.
yes, I do. And he signs it saying this judgment is good. Everything has been met. Due diligence has been achieved. Due process has been achieved. Um, and I would like to insert this. So, practically, I would say probably 90% of the lawsuits that are filed there in Brewster, because they have, there's someone that hasn't been served, that hasn't been personally served by the sheriff. The judge is required to appoint an attorney ad litem to represent those defendants whose service hasn't been effectuated on them personally. And when I mean personally, meaning from a deputy's hand or the sheriff's hand to their hand. And so at that point, yes, when we're in court, there's an ad litem there. There's myself, and the judge, of course, and the ad litem's job is to make sure that Daniel has conformed with everything legally that he's supposed to have done, that he did his best efforts to locate any known owners of this property. That attorney ad litem, um, they have to do their own due diligence. They have to file a due diligence report. They have to do their own research, their own title research in the middle of this, and try to find good addresses or good numbers for the people that they're assigned to appoint to represent. And there will be times where the ad litem and in each of our counties that we represent, the district judges are really good about appointing ad litems that have been in the area, that are local, and have been in the area for quite a bit of time. And that's a huge advantage. Um, uh, for instance, in Fort Davis, Joe James is essentially the ad litem in all the cases where there's defendants that haven't been personally served. And, there'll be times where he'd call and say, Daniel, I went to school with this guy. He passed away he passed away 20 years ago. Didn't leave a will. Um, did he have any kids? He goes, well, I know he had one. I don't know if they're still alive, but in any event, the ad items serve a great purpose to us in every county. It allows us to, because sometimes they'll know something personally that we don't know because we don't live in the area for whatever reason. But yeah, so at that point, the judge says the ad litem will be there. I'll be there. The ad litem will give us a report to the judge. The judge will say everything is due process has been met. I sign it.
So you're telling me that if the sheriff attempts to serve, say they attempt to serve this person a couple of times and they can't literally serve them, hand them the document,
Right.
then it gets kicked to an ad litem.
Yeah. So no, what happens is it doesn't get kicked to an ad litem immediately. What it does is the sheriff or the deputy will return the citation to to the district clerk's office.
Yeah.
And say, here's the sheriff's return. We have made, there's some space at the bottom of the citation, and informing the district clerk, we have made 4 attempts to try to serve this person. Uh, and to no avail. So and then they sign it saying we have made every effort to try to serve this person. At that point, what that triggers to us is, in order to get an ad litem approved, what we have to do is we still have to try to serve that defendant, um, either by certified mail or by publication. And by publication, what the law requires us to do is we're required to publish notice of that lawsuit to that defendant in a newspaper or periodical in the last known county where that defendant resided. So say we post that in Alpine Avalanche, and we run that, and we still don't get any response from the defendant. At that point, we file that our notice and our diligence report with Judge Kimball in a motion, and it's called a motion to appoint attorney ad litem.
Yeah.
And we ask Judge Kimball, Your Honor, in accordance with Rule 106, Texas Rules of Civil Procedure, et cetera, we have made attempts to serve this person personally to no avail. We have satisfied the requirements of the Texas Rules of Civil Procedure. We please appoint an ad litem to this case for further diligence. That's sent to the district clerk's office. It's filed. District clerk's office forwards that to Judge Kimball. Judge Kimball gets that on his desk. There's literally a blank on the order that says, "I, Judge Kimball, hereby appoint Joe James as attorney ad litem." Um, then after that, that's file marked with the clerk. Clerk sends that notice. The clerk or the district judge sends that notice to Joe James saying, "You've been appointed to this case as ad litem," and so there's a waiting period there once an ad litem is appointed, because the ad litem has to be given ample time to do their research on it. And in most cases, there's ad litems that would have been appointed um, to make 10 cases at one time.
All right, I see a bottle. I mean, I can see a bottleneck right there.
Yeah, and there is.
70%, if 70% of the people don't reply to the first notices, there's a high chance that 70% that you can't find anybody for nothing.
Right.
So you're having to go through all this. All right, so let's skip that for right now. That's not encouraging. All right, let's say that you did serve me. I now have service. I've been notified that I'm being sued. Now and I get a judgment against me. Right.
Okay. So let's say you did get personally served and you did not file an answer. Then yes, we put that on the docket through Judge Kimball's office. We take the judgment against you. We have that's filed with the district clerk's office. And at that point, once the judgment is taken against you, the next step is that it's taken to a tax sale.
And how long from the judgment to the tax sale, Sarah? Just within the next month or so? No, I know that, but I mean, once you get the judgment, you file it, then I guess it theoretically could pop up the next month at the tax sale. Okay.
We were up till August is the timeline, and suddenly you jumped to January.
Well, what's happening yeah, so between August and December, kind of, you know, all this ad litem and
Right.
increasing title and serving people, and I call it the hoo-ha.
Yeah.
All right, all this is going on during that period, and I don't know how you'd ever, I mean, that's what the Linebarger's getting paid to do. Is
And meanwhile, the new tax
it's
bills
coming
have
out.
come due
Right.
on top of all this.
Right, right. That's the other thing. The new tax bill comes, they get their notice, their tax statements in October. So, yeah, um, and I will say this, and so let's say yours is ready for default. You did not file an answer, but at the same time, we have some that their ad litems were appointed on. There could be a 2 to 3 month time period where the judge gives the ad litem their time to do their due diligence, and in most of our counties, and um, Judge Kimball is essentially the same. Judge Ferguson was especially this way. Judge Kimball is, what they like to do is they don't want to have a docket. They prefer to not have a docket for just Greg Hennington's case. Um, they prefer to have a docket where a complete tri-county tax docket where our judgments are there. The other law firms' judgments are there, and they like to take care of them all in one whack. So that's the other thing that's not entirely in our control. So when let's say we have yours ready to go, and we call Lori, and uh, we can't call Lori and say we have a judgment for Greg Hennington. Can you create a docket for us next week? Um, or 10 days from now, because we're required to give you 10 days notice that that the judge is about to sign a judgment against you. So, can we do it 2 weeks from now? She's going to say, no, judge has a jury trial going on this week, or no, that's his criminal docket, or it's his civil docket. The next docket that you're going to have available, let's say it's right now. The next docket that we're going to have available, Daniel, is probably going to be in mid-January after the holidays. And then we're going to put all you guys on there. We're going to put, Linebargers, Purdue's, and McCrary's all on the mid-January docket. And obviously it's not good form for us to stomp our feet and say, we can't make them create a docket for us. In other words,
I got it. Okay, well, I mean, what we could do is I could have a conversation with Judge Kimball about having would he be kind enough to let us have an occasional Brewster County docket instead of a tri-county docket? But that would be between me and him to talk about that. Let's say, all right, let's get to tax sale now, because I've got some more work to do. We're at tax sale now. Sheriff's been notified. He has a tax sale on the first Tuesday of the month or whatever it is, right?
right.
Okay, I as the landowner, I have until 24 hours before the tax sale to pay. I can pay everything that's due and walk away, right?
Yeah, you could pay, the tax sale would start at 10 o'clock on the first Tuesday of the month. You could walk into the tax office and pay everything at 9:30 in the morning and get your certificate of payment from the tax office, run it across the street to the courthouse, give it to me, show it to me, and I verify that with Sylvia that they pay everything, including court costs. Yes. Then I walk up to Sheriff Dotson. He has the list of properties that we have on the tax sale. And I say, Sheriff, we need to scratch this one off. They just now paid.
All right, once the tax sale started though, I can't do it.
No, no. Now there's an entirely different process after it's sold where you could redeem it, but that's
Right.
a whole other process.
Yeah, we'll come back to that in a minute. All right, so at the tax sale, sheriff auctions these off in a public auction. And whatever they sell for, they sell for. And let's talk about, let's say there's $4,000 in, let's make it even, $5,000 in taxes, but the thing only sells for $2,000. That means there's a shortfall of three. That three goes into, we don't get the three, what happens?
So that the way that is so at some point during the during the litigation process, what we'll do is we work, we work well with Purdue, who of course represents the other entities in Brewster County. They work well with us. Whenever we're at the point where we're filing a lawsuit, we'll let them, we'll let them know that there is a lawsuit that has been filed. They let us know whenever a lawsuit on their end has been filed. And so they enter into our, it's called an intervention. Purdue would intervene into ours to represent their entities that are owed money if they have some owed to them, and vice versa. So so they're at the tax sales. Let's say it doesn't sell, there's 5,000 owed, and in the judgment it'll include everything that's owed. And let's say it sells for 3,000. That whatever it's sold for gets broken up and it's split out pro rata to each of the entities.
Bidding doesn't start with what the delinquent taxes and the fees are. It
Yeah,
starts at zero.
The bid, there's a minimum bid set by statute. The minimum bid on anything on a property delinquent that's been taken to tax sale is the lesser of the value of the property, or the amount of taxes owed along with penalties, interest, and court costs and attorney's fees.
Okay,
Right,
so,
so you can't sell for less.
yeah, normally we start at what they owe.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So-
It's at least what they owe.
And then they say, no one's offering 5,000. Do I hear 4,000? Do I hear 3,000?
Yeah,
Or they
they
just
go-
stop it?
Yes, they go up until it goes to highest bidder. And then after that, the entities are paid their share out of the proceeds.
But if it's 5,000 and no one bids 5,000, it's a no sale.
Yes, if nobody bids at all on the property, if nobody wants it, it's considered a struck off property, and it gets struck off to the taxing entities, and they hold that property as trustee for the other entities.
So in other words, there's $5,000 owed and nobody wants to pay $5,000 on it. They can't bid for because they can't get the bid below it.
Right.
But it just doesn't sell.
Okay.
And so then it goes off to, that's another thing, it goes off to
They come to court and we accept a different deal.
yeah, that goes to the strikeout book.
Yeah, and then we accept
Yeah.
this money.
And then once you get the strikeout book, anybody can make an offer for a strikeout property at any amount, right?
Yes.
Well, yes. So yes, that's another process. So let's say it's struck off. Nobody bought it at the courthouse steps. So it's struck off. It's called struck off, and it's struck off to Brewster County as trustee for the other entities. So someone could come in. Um, hopefully it's not Jake. Just kidding, Jake. But let's say Jake comes in and says, "I saw that this property didn't sell on the courthouse steps. The minimum bid on that property was $5,000. I'll offer you guys. I'd like to buy it for $2,000. What that's called an what we call an underbid. So if Jake were to offer anything less than the minimum bid that was at the courthouse steps, and he signs an offer to purchase for $2,000, what we're required to do by statute is we're required to send a notice to all of the taxing entities saying, we have received an offer, an underbid for this property for $2,000. These are the amounts that this is the amount that your entity is owed, you're owed, and so forth. Um, uh, we ask that you place this on your agenda, your next coming agenda, to go through it with your school board, with your city council, with your board, with your commissioners, and you guys are required to vote on whether or not you want to accept this underbid. And then we have to, and then there's that little bit of a logjam there until we go through the whole process of after everybody has had their monthly meeting or bi-monthly meeting, and whether or not they approved it or not. Now it could go through, and all of the entities could have said yes except for one. If one entity says no, that's too low, it doesn't go through. Um, you know, but that's each entity's decision as to whether they want to approve it or not. Sometimes, it's not uncommon for one entity to call the other and say, I know you guys have this on your agenda. Y'all are the last ones. We'd really like to get this out of the tax roll. Do you get the sense that y'all are going to approve this underbid? Yes or no, or whatever. And, people start, sometimes the entities will start working together saying, no, I agree. We're going to move to accept this and we'll get it back on the tax roll. Maybe we're not happy with such a low offer, but let's get it back making revenue.
But now at the beginning, the public comment about the tax collection from the school perspective, they were looking at a timeline, the collections are going down, and we're looking at 15 months or more before any taxing entity, school otherwise, starts seeing money coming back in, is basically what we're saying here.
Well, it's twofold. One is how long, it looks like it's about a 15-month timeline to get it to a tax sale, assuming everything goes right.
Yeah.
And that's one of my questions. And the other one is just, how aggressive are we during the year with letters going out?
Mhm.
And what are we doing? And it sounds like letters are going out. They're going out from the law firm. They go out periodically. I might argue there could be room for one more letter in there, but I don't know that that makes a lot of difference with a 70%
Bad address.
bad address, and particularly South County. You can send letters all day long and you're going to get the same answer. So it looks like the process is there. What I don't know, I mean, of course, economy can have an impact on this. That rarely comes back to my question, Daniel, and the one I have is, I get the process now. I think the court does too, but why would we have taxes on our rolls that are 5 years past due? I mean, it seems like we ought to have, okay, I'll even give you 2 years just because of all the hassle you got to go through with it.
Yeah.
But why would we have any dollars on our books that were over 3 years old? I don't understand.
Again, some of those that show up on the delinquent tax roll are accruing delinquencies, especially in South County where it's less than $100 a year. And they haven't reached that threshold where it's even viable to even try to go after it. But when it gets to that point, whenever and at any point, if there's if there's any account that regardless of dollar amount that our clients want us to treat, we'll treat it. It doesn't as far as, even if the court costs outweigh the delinquency, we'll make an attempt if there's a specific request for that. But we find in our experience that it's better if we focus our time and effort and costs on the higher dollar amounts. But what we do is when we do our target roll, you know, once we determine what dollar amount we're going to start working those delinquencies, we treat every one of those at the very top, which typically will be 90% of the entire delinquent tax roll. So, that's what we treat. And so, yes, you will see some that are older than 5 years, but that's just because of the dollar amount. And then, also, the difference is, we represent, of course, only two of the entities. So our amounts don't accrue, of course, on the delinquent tax on our target roll at the amount that they would accrue for any of the other firms. So, but in the end, Purdue does a fine job. We do a fine job. We work together well in Brewster County. That's my opinion. And I believe we work well with them in other counties that we have joint clients in. And in the end, on the lawsuits that that Purdue would file, we join into their lawsuit on behalf of the county and Terlingo CSD. And when we file a lawsuit on behalf of Terlingo CSD and Brewster County, Purdue intervenes into our cases to cover their clients' interests. So in the end, we're both doing the same. We're going through the same process. We do have, we will, I don't want to speak for them, out of pocket or anything, but I feel it's safe to say we all of us experience the same log jams. We're at the mercy of different, different things, ad litems, when the court sets the docket for us. It's the same work, same processes. It's outlined to us by statute. And, there are just some, there are just some delays that are just completely out of our hands and out of their hands, quite frankly.
All right, so if I own property in Brewster County and I'm paying taxes to the schools, let's say in this case, I'm paying taxes to the Alpine School. And I don't pay my taxes. I actually have two law firms now working
Yes,
against me. I have Linebarger for Brewster County and Terlingo Common, but in this case, Terlingo was not involved because it's up here. And then I have Purdue running up legal bills for everybody else. So I really, as a taxpayer, I'm going to pay two sets of legal fees in that case, right?
that's correct.
Okay. And then if it goes down to the common school district in Terlingua, then it's the same idea, but okay. All right. So I guess my question is, well, let's go back real quick to the payment thing. I think, Sylvia, can you provide the court like a quarterly report of payments? I know you've given me that report before. And people who owe money that are on a payment plan and their status. Can we see that? I look at that as kind of an accounts receivable list.
Just on the agreements, on the contracts that we have?
Yeah, where we have said, hey, we'll take payments over 24 months. Is that something we could see?
Yes.
Okay. And then there is another one, a bundle of, it's called deferred taxes, Daniel. These are people generally over 65. Well, tell me what the rules are for deferring taxes.
Well, yes, there's the over 65 exemption. That's filed with through the appraisal district. Whenever we get the delinquent tax roll, we double check that to make sure that that if there's a deferral, that we code it in our system so that we don't mail on those. And it essentially works exactly as the homestead exemption will work. But yes, it is exactly what it is. Just a deferment of, it's deferring the payment of their taxes until it's essentially passed down to in probate at some point.
Okay, so it's like almost like a reverse mortgage. If I'm over
Basically.
65 and if I decided I couldn't pay my taxes, I could get a deferment and just
Right.
never pay my taxes, and then my kids would inherit it and they would pay the taxes.
Correct.
Okay. Do I have to be over 65 to get the deferment, or can anybody get a deferment?
But it's mostly that's an over 65 deferral.
And disabled? Okay. All right. That's not, all right. So that,
65 disabled, and there's some vague military exemptions, but yes,
and the people that decide that is the appraisal district?
yes, that's also set by statute in the legislature, and yes, that is the exemptions. The requests for exemptions are filed through the appraisal district.
So, okay, so if I wanted to defer my taxes on my house, I would go to Jake
Yes,
and fill out paperwork, and then he would say, yep, you're over 65. Does he have to does he have to check my ability to pay or not pay, or I just tell him I can't pay?
everybody does. All the chief appraisal and appraisal districts have their own method of going through that, but a lot of that is also set by statute for them as far as what documentation is required to do that. And then Jake might be better able to answer what he does on his end on that to verify before he codes it as a deferral.
Can you speak to that, Jake?
Sure. I don't make any inquiry into ability to pay. If they're over 65 and they apply for deferral, I put it into the system as deferral.
Okay, all right. So that I go for deferral, I go to you. For a payment plan, I go to you.
And to be clear, when I input that, the deferral is applied for and recorded at the appraisal district. It is implemented by the county tax office. It's an important distinction.
But you must send files over to Sylvia that says these are our new deferrals.
Yeah. So when I check a box in the software system that says deferral, right? And then that is coded on the appraisal side of the software as a deferral.
And they never get a tax bill.
What I do.
And they don't get a tax bill. Basically.
That's the collections. I don't touch it like that.
Out of morbid curiosity, how's the oldest, or what is our oldest delinquent tax account?
We have some that are 20 years old.
Yeah, I'm looking at the other day, it was 20 years.
Yeah, so I mean, this process that Daniel laid out should have happened in 12 to 15 months. Now, I understand that if it's, well, right, but it's sitting out there, why hasn't it gone to auction?
Yeah.
It's the low amount, but they keep accruing taxes year after year. Although that title research and all that's already been done, we already know you're not going to pay. And it keeps generating new taxes every year for 25 years. Why is it still?
And that's kind of what happens is it starts out at $100.
Mhm.
So if you wait 8 years, it comes up to a big enough number to go chase.
But by that time, the trail has gone cold.
Well, of course.
Oftentimes, yes.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest delay in all of this is title risk. The real property records of this county are not good. It is exceptionally difficult to do change of title back to the sovereign, if that's what our collections firms are claiming that they're doing every time. I don't even know if it's possible.
Yes, and I'd like to jump in. It is practically impossible, and I that's not my style to throw anybody under the bus. But yes, the property records are not the best.
I'm sure no one's surprised by that.
All right, so that's what, Mr. Vickers, tell me what, have you heard all this? Tell me what y'all's thoughts are on this process. Where do you think the bottlenecks are based on what you just heard?
I mean, it seems like like the whole process is just way longer than it has to be. Especially on the back end from the school district's perspective, we have to turn over our collection rate to the states for them to give up money. I think like Mr. Westerman talked about, if those were continually on the delinquent rate every year, and we're not getting taxes for those, like we're getting penalized on the rates for those year after year after year. And yes, from the delinquent tax attorneys, it's not worth going until it gets to a number, but it hurts the overall percentage that we send to the state that we have to send in June.
Yeah.
So it may not hurt you here, but it's going to hurt you on your rate over and over.
Right.
And again, that's very minimalist understanding.
Well, and I think the underlying thing that everybody needs to understand is that Texas has some very protective laws on due process of taking people's property. Not some
Exactly.
states are not as, we're very protective of people's rights to own property. And taking the property away is a laborious process in Texas intentionally by our constitution.
Yeah.
And I get that. I support that. Having said that, Daniel, my reaction is we ought to turn the horses loose. Well, before we do that, explain tax warrants in 25 words or less to the court.
Okay, so a real property tax warrant. Well, there's two types of tax warrants. There's tax warrants on business personal property, which
Yeah, don't care about that.
yes,
Tell
yeah,
tell
that's
me
not a
about
big issue. That's not a big issue in Brewster. In Ector, yes, and so a real property tax warrant. So if a property has gone delinquent 5 years or more, and it's determined to have been abandoned, not improved, um, then what you can file an application for a tax warrant that has to be approved by the district judge. And what that allows, it's a statutory warrant, and it's signed by the judge, and it allows it would allow us to essentially skip some of the process that we've talked about. Um, but the only process that it does not allow us to skip is the due diligence part of it. Before we can get that tax warrant and effectuate that tax warrant, we have to have tried to locate defendants again. And that there and again, that becomes where the problem is. We get unknown owners, and it just there's almost nothing you can do about it whenever it comes to trying to find good records that will support the affidavit that we have to have signed, that we in good faith can give to Judge Kimball saying we did everything we could, because we're the ones that put our license on the line that say um, this is uh, this application for this tax warrant is completely legitimate. We've done everything that we have possibly been able to do. Um, and Judge, you should feel comfortable that we're not going to take this property because we have done, we have found this person or we have found that person. Because I mean, people they just do not exist in some of these places. And you have these parcels of land over there that uh, honestly, for me to put eyes on it, which is one of the essentially one of the requirements for the tax warrant, is that you have to be able to show or have an affidavit signed by somebody saying that there are no improvements on it and that nobody resides there, and they do not know. There's a number of things that affidavit has to include, but for me personally, I would not feel comfortable applying for a tax warrant with Judge Kimball unless I personally put eyes on it, especially in South County. And there's properties over there that I would have to have a helicopter to put my eyes on it.
Can you hire that to be done? Do you have to do it yourself or can it be hired out? Can you hire a third party?
Could hire a third party, and I do have a standing agreement with the people out at Poetry, one of the the property manager out there.
Yeah.
Because at one point, and Judge, and I believe I spoke with you and Ruben maybe about this last year sometime. Um, I was in the process of doing a tax warrant last year when a law firm out of, I believe, Dripping Springs or somewhere near Austin contacted me and saying, um, "Hey, we're hired by Poetry to collect their property association fees, and we are preparing to lien. Um, we hate to gum up the process on this for you, um, but we're owed over here in South County. We're owed. I think they're owed somewhere in the neighborhood of $400,000 in association fees. And when they file that lien, it definitely does not make it easy. Definitely does not make it a comfortable application for a tax warrant to send to Judge Kimball. Um, but anyways, back to what I was getting at. There is somebody out there that they were going that, and I don't have his name off the top of my head. I have him in my phone, but um, real nice gentleman. He's the property manager out there. Um, he is willing to sign an affidavit on the parcels that he knows for a fact that are abandoned and nobody has been there for 5 years, and that there are no improvements. But the problem with that is he is hamstrung by the firm that they are using, that they hired to collect their association fees. And I cannot include their association fees in my property tax warrant.
Well, another
Um,
issue I think with that is that there's a lack of surveys. So you can go out there and stand in the middle of the desert, but you're not sure you're actually on the right property.
exactly.
All right, so my question to the group is, there's clearly some bottlenecks, there's some delinquent taxes. A very wise judge who was before me told me the other day, she said, I think you're doing is great, but there may or may not be a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.
That's correct, Your
what I
Honor.
don't really know. I'd really like to know what the pot of gold, because if it's not very big, it's not worth chasing. If it is significant, then that could be $500,000, extra for the county that, that's due to us. I mean, I'm not here to foreclose on widows and orphans. That's not our goal. But in fairness,
There's a lot of abandoned.
we pay
property.
our taxes. Everybody else should pay their taxes. It's the way the world is. Reagan, you got any thoughts?
I do. So we work with Linebarger on two ways. One, they help us with our appeals and our property values.
Right.
And the reporting is really clear to us on what we're going to gain and what we're potentially losing. And listening to this today, I think our board and I would recommend, we would like some reporting on the delinquent tax side, on what can we potentially be gaining, which tracks are valuable to go after, and what's the timeline on having these tax sales. At least an annual report, because we're not getting that at this point.
I think that's a good point. I mean, we've been talking about maybe forming a small committee, Sylvia and myself and one of the commissioners, whoever else, that would sit down. I mean, if you owned a business and you had a book of receivables, people weren't paying you, you'd be sitting down every month and going, how come they're not paying us? What are we doing about it? Well, I don't know why this is any different, just because it's in the government. So I think it's worth forming a group that says, okay, every month we're going to sit down and look, or every quarter, we're going to look at our tax payments, our deferments, what's on the rolls, what's delinquent, what are our bottlenecks. It sounds like we've got bottlenecks some places, largely in that title search.
And to clarify, South County, that's south of the airport, everything south of the airport is South County.
Are you being facetious?
I made a joke, but I would like to clarify, what exactly is South County? I hear this all the time. Is there a dividing line
Yeah, I know.
between what is South County and what is?
Yeah, it's always been for me, Elephant Mountain.
Was Elephant Mountain.
But that's arbitrary too.
Yes, I don't think north of the airport.
Doesn't have to be.
South County.
That's not north.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody is naive to the fact that, South County is full of, the southern half of our county is full of land. Somebody said it so evident, land of broken dreams. I'm gonna go buy me a piece of property. And they get down there and they find out it's hot, dry, no water,
Black widows.
black widows, or they abandon the
That's neat.
place, and so they never pay taxes again, and here we are.
There's a little strip stuff in that too.
Yeah.
Down in,
It kind of, yeah.
that's the same thing. They went in there.
Those addresses, Judge, that we have no addresses for, a lot of them come from the HC 65. that.
Highway
used to get delivered before, I think they're trying to change those addresses.
Yeah, they are.
So when we get mail back, we get a lot of that H265.
Is that right?
And our post office is very lazy because I know that we get addresses for people that we know still live there and we're getting their mail back. So it has to do a lot with the HC and our postal service.
Tell me where you think the bottlenecks are. Sylvia, you're in the driver's seat. You're the one collecting the taxes. Tell me what your perception is. Are we leaving money on the table in your mind? Or where are our problems, or if we have any?
Well, probably, the people are struggling, number one, okay? So maybe that is the reason our tax rates are so low, okay? But we really need to, our attorneys really need to start, I believe, on that land that is out there with delinquent taxes, you're right, putting it up for tax sale and getting it back on, our tax rolls, to bring in money. That is the way I see it, because there is a lot of things.
I got a question for Sylvia. All the tax statements you send out, what percentage do you get back as non-returnable? I mean, as
Deliverable.
non-deliverable, excuse me.
Maybe a 30%. We still get
Okay. Because I know there's some that go out of state,
foreign,
maybe Bolivia, I don't know where. but, you
yeah,
know.
months for that. Come back. The ones here, sometimes we try to track down, make corrections. Of course, our envelopes say, address, correction, whatever it is. So we get them back, correct the addresses and resend them out. Hoping that it's, it's still on file and it's still
Well, in the HC65 bunch, people, there's somebody that knows that there are people there, if they're actually living there, correct?
they were trying to change that at one point, Sarah.
Well, they don't want 911 addresses to be on the highway. So people were using their HC address as a 911 address, and it was this whole thing with the postal service. So they're trying to, only people on the highway are supposed to have highway addresses now.
But not the HC, so it's like 12B9 State Highway, and that's the way they get their mail now.
Yeah, their mail is supposed to have like a street name and address.
But what I'm asking, that those people actually live there.
I assume so.
Maybe, yeah, okay. I
Very
mean,
good.
but if it's a one person and that person passes away, if they're from here, somebody will find that out. But if they live in Indiana, that's just another, like you said, a bottleneck. It goes into that title search thing that goes on forever, evidently.
That
Mr.
is,
Rickman, let me ask you a question about the school though. So you have, you know what your value is, you set your tax rate and you say, this would be my levy. You guys do the same thing we do. And then you take that levy, that dollar amount, and you figure out, we say that we're gonna collect only 96% of that amount. I assume you all do the same thing. So we take that 96% and that goes in our budgets.
Right.
And then what she collects in our mind is what we put in the budget. So when you're measuring your percentage of collections, are you measuring what you budgeted or what your levy is?
We, again, I may be, again, limited understanding, but we try to budget what the tax rate has been. Our current concern is that the tax rate before it went delinquent has dropped every year from 96 to 92. And so that's what we're trying to, even before the delinquent attorneys get involved, like what is different there? Because I can't, I imagine that might have happened in other counties across the state. Like, what are they doing to get that rate back up, because it's costing us money? It's obviously costing y'all money, but what's the difference? Why is there a drop? Because like right now it's trending in a direction that nobody wants to trend.
Yeah, because it's really odd because we are collecting about 96% of what we budgeted, which is obviously 96% of the levy. So we never collect everything.
Correct.
We're not, And so y'all are, seem like we ought to be tracking the same, taxes are all going out at the same time. I don't know why y'all's was lower. I don't know why yours is 93 and ours is 96, 97%. So, I mean, based on what I heard today, I don't know that we could streamline the notification process. I mean, part of me was like, well, maybe we're not sending out enough notices, or something like that, but they're getting notices.
That's our law firm, they have a different law firm.
Yeah. Oh, that's
So,
right.
like that-
Their law firm. Is your law firm doing effectively the same thing? Are their notices, are they sending out the notices?
Honestly, could not answer that question.
Are y'all sending out the notices? See, so you could send out the notice. They couldn't they?
The attorneys do, that's the reason we have delinquent tax attorneys to handle.
I know, but agencies do have the option in the early stages to send their own out.
But it's an expense.
Yeah, right. Now I get it, but they could. But you think your law firm's sending out those first letters?
I couldn't tell you one way. I wouldn't want to tell you wrong.
Well, I guess, Court, my question to y'all today is, we kind of solve everything today, obviously, but I was thinking maybe me and one of y'all in a small group, we sit down and we look at this every month, every quarter. Maybe we start at monthly and then work to quarterly or vice versa. And see if we can look at our book of business and see if there's some things Daniel can help us with. I mean, Daniel, my inclination is y'all want this business from us. You've asked for the business, we've given it to you. You almost have to take all the bad with the good. Now,
Yes.
I don't want you to lose money, because then if you lose money, you're not motivated to do a good job. I understand that process, but part of me says those little $100, we got to go after them. And you're going to have some winners and you're going to have some losers, and hopefully the winners are exceeding the losers.
But in the long run, we need to get everything back on the tax roll that we can.
Right.
Cause it's not gonna get better. We've got a historical problem of bad property records, but we have an opportunity to fix that. We might not be as profitable as we would hope, but it would set us up for better collections in the future if we got everybody with most of the people with bad address back on the tax rolls, maybe sold it to somebody who we know where they live.
I mean, my sense is the system is sort of like this herky jerky. It's not a kind of a flowing, I mean, I guess my question is, are we doing our very best to collect? And I can't quite get an answer on that one.
Well, if we've got 20 years in arrears, that doesn't sound good to me.
By the way, some of those that are over 20 years, you can't collect it after 20 years. So we got to bring it into court and write those off.
Imagine also if you're the
It's not a lot
property
of money.
owner,
It's not.
Well, I know, but then what do you do with the property if we write it off as a court or the school or whatever? Who owns it?
Well, you write off the ability to collect it, and then it starts like, what does it do? Start all over?
I mean,
every new year.
does it go
Yeah,
back to tax rolls?
What the way that works is the entire, after 20 years, yes, it's and a delinquency after 20 years is uncollectible. That particular year is the year that falls off. The 20
Rolls.
and then it rolls over, correct. And I will say this, when we're talking about, bad records, property records and so forth, last year, when we visited Judge, maybe a couple of times, we were talking about maybe hiring someone, a local title company. And I believe at one point there was somebody maybe in Fort Davis we were going to look at, a title company in Fort Davis. But last year when we visited, I had assured you that I was going to work it through our office we increase the number of title workers to assist in some of that title research. We quadrupled the number of people that were assigned to Brewster to run title. That has been effective because not only are they running title, they're also assisting with our skip tracing team. which the skip tracing part of it, that is continuous. It goes through a loop. It doesn't stop no matter how many times it comes back. We take it a different route if we have to. And, like I said, luckily we partner with some of the bigger agencies the biggest agencies out there that no longer charge us um, per request to run skip tracing. We have set fees with them that we incur on our own. And I will say right now, sitting on Judge Kimball's desk right now, there's 13 judgments on his desk that he's going to be signing soon. And there are some properties there in South County that are on those judgments that we were able to make some headway on. And those will, as soon as we get those signed judgments back, we're going to take those to a tax sale. And
Jake has a question.
okay,
The enhanced title research that you're describing, does that include a person who physically comes to Brewster County and looks through the old books? Because
yes,
it's the only way it's gonna happen.
yes.
Okay.
All right, well, I guess maybe I don't know what our goal there is it to shrink 5-year delinquencies down to about 2, or 3, pick them up.
About 20 down to 10.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
The number of 20 years are not that much. Really.
Yes.
I looked at it.
Yeah, and Judge, and you and I talked a couple of weeks ago at conference and about meeting quarterly.
Yeah.
I have no problem, whoever you want to bring into your committee and meet with you quarterly, and we can have it, and we can include, Reagan and Terlingo CSD in it, of course. And I can give you a collection report in open court or in open meeting or at our quarterly meetings, however you want to do it. That's not a problem, and we can look at things that maybe you guys want to pay special attention to for whatever reason, and we can go that way. That's not a problem. And I've stated that to you before, Judge, and yeah,
Sure.
So that's not a problem at all.
The other issue, guys, that I know the frustration by the school. Remember, the school and other districts pay us to collect their taxes. So they certainly expect benefit for their payment, particularly when I want to go up on their payment. So, I think, so why don't we do this? Why don't we take, Reagan, would you be willing to serve on this committee and meet periodically? What if we took Reagan, myself, one of the commissioners, one of you guys maybe rotated around?
I was gonna say, maybe we should rotate it.
Yeah, we'll start with, y'all can flip a coin who that is. Since Ruben left the room, we could appoint him. Sylvia, of course.
Can we meet at Blackjack Crossing and play golf? And,
Are you paying?
But Reagan is on my,
anywhere we
Reagan
get
is on
these
my,
taxes collected.
Judge, you want to put Jake on?
If he pays.
Yeah, I want to put Jake on it.
Reagan is on my team though.
Right. So it's Reagan, myself, Commissioner, Sylvia, Jake, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 of us. And then you, Daniel, that would be a start. And, we'll get with Sylvia and start getting reports, and then we'll have a meeting. I would say the school, it's welcome to come. I won't put you on the committee since it's really Brewster County, but y'all should be a part of that because you're interested in the collections too. Really, if you want to know the truth about it, it's really because whatever we collect, we're collecting for the others. Yeah, so it's not like we're isolated, but we can look at our delinquencies and try to attack that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Judge Jenkins, I know, the school boards, they all would welcome just any sort of short presentation at a board meeting to kind of talk about this. I don't want to trust me to try to go between, but anybody that could come to our next meetings and present, we should make sure and definitely get that on the agenda, because I know Dr. Reinhardt and the entire school board have a really interest in that.
Well, and I kind of wonder whether why, we're doing this collectively because it all benefits us. Maybe Purdue, maybe somebody from Purdue needs to be on this too. Maybe it's a Purdue, maybe this is just a big joint effort to see what we can do to speed things up. I mean, the law firms are all kind of in the same boat.
I'm not opposed to that at all, Judge. I have no problem with, I get along with them just fine. And I hope they say the same thing about me, but um, like I said, they do a fine job. They're professional. We're professional. What they file, we get included in. What we file, they get included in. It is essentially in the big picture, it is a joint effort. So I'm not opposed to them being there. Um, it whatever's best for you guys is what is really all that matters to me and helps me to do my job better for you guys. That's really all I'm interested in.
Which one of you commissioners wants to start? You got voted.
That's fine. I'm good with it. The school district, that's good. The school district down there is my precinct and the order manager is my precinct. We got a problem with both.
We'll start with Ruben and then y'all can rotate out as you.
Okay. I have a question for Daniel. There were letters that came out from Terlinga Ranch Property Owners Association a couple of years ago threatening to foreclose on people's properties when they didn't pay their dues. And I guess I'm confused as if the county can't take people's property, does the Property Owners Association have a different set of rules to follow? Is it easier for them? Why would it be easier for them? And how would that affect your process of going after delinquent taxes if Poetry foreclosed on it for delinquent property owner
Or
fees?
superior.
I would think, yeah, that's my understanding as well. So I'm hoping Daniel can explain it to me and dumb it down for
Yes,
non-lawyer.
5 words or less.
I can't promise, but no. So yes, one, our lien is superior to theirs. The notices that were sent out, I do have a copy of one that they had sent to me, along with a spreadsheet of. And I said, it's around the $400,000 mark at this point. But to answer your question, Commissioner Kalondo, is that um, on their contract with the association, when it came with the purchase of their property, it was essentially again a homeowners association. If you do not pay, we will sue. They don't have to follow the same rules that we have to on the ad valorem side of it. But regardless, even if they were to file a lien, it's not superior to ours. But where it holds up our process is that because those are unknown, they're unknown owners, unknown addresses, unknown the legal. There's not proper legal descriptions because there's not proper surveys. We can't. The only method that we have is other than doing a judicial foreclosure, meaning a lawsuit, is that real property tax warrant that we were speaking of. That we cannot credibly apply for that tax warrant with Judge Kimball without making sure that we again located the owners, and we it would it would be it would almost amount to malpractice on my part if I filed that knowing that there are other liens that could be filed and that are owed to another party, and particularly the properties to Poetry, to the property association. So therein lies that problem is it would, you know, I would be withholding information that I know exists, in other words.
Right.
So
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Yes.
If Poetry forecloses on a property, are they now liable for the overdue taxes, or does it wait till they sell it at their own auction and then go to that?
Yes, if it would go to their auction, And we would be able to intervene into that, and the ad valorem taxes would come off at the top. And that's when I spoke to their attorney that has been trying to do their collections, which, by the way, the firm out of Austin, Dripping Springs area, they have not made any headway in 20 years. Um, and so they held back on filing a lot of their liens, simply for the fact that they want to try to work with me and work together so that I can get a real property tax warrant put together for a number of those properties. Um, and and that's what we're hoping to accomplish is, but it's again, it's so difficult because, um, again, they haven't made any headway on the amount that they're owed at all. It's been that way forever. And if you can imagine, their association dues aren't that much, and they're getting close to $500,000 in the receivable. Um, and it's just a quagmire out there, to be honest. And I'm not one to make excuses or anything, uh, but we are making a little bit of headway. Like I said, we assigned a lot more personnel to do title work, and to assist with skip tracing, and we're making a little bit of headway here and there, and that's really all we can do. And I wish there were a huge pot of gold there to get to, but that part of that delinquent tax road that includes all of that, you pretty much almost have to disregard it as uncollectible. Um, and again, the firm that was before us that had this for the 30 years before us, and they had the same issues. I don't want to speak for Purdue, too much, but I know they run into the same issues. Um, those tax warrants can be pretty tricky. Um, you can get hung up on those. Um, there was a real property tax warrant that was done by Purdue not too long ago, um, that um, that we just got notice of from a law firm out of, I believe, Dallas. I received a binder that is 5 inches thick with 250 exhibits saying that tax warrant is invalid, and I'm really glad my name is not on it. Again, not disparaging Purdue at all. Um, if that would have been me doing it, the same thing would have been happening on my end. Other law firms from Houston, San Antonio, and Dallas would have sent me the same thing. Um, I still have not gone through all of those exhibits. It is literally 5 inches thick, 250 exhibits saying y'all's tax warrant was done incorrectly. And I don't want my name on something like that and having to explain that to Judge Kimball saying, we missed this. So, and I wouldn't want to have the county involved on that end of it either. So that's why it's a really delicate situation when you're getting into those. And again, for the same reason that Judge Hennington explained, Texas is protective of homeowners' rights and owning property. They're probably the most stringent in the country by far.
Well, who hired the attorneys in Dallas to prove that the tax warrant was invalid?
I still haven't gone through all of it to see which of the landowners are saying.
It has to be somebody with standing to be able to say it was done wrong.
Right, correct. I still haven't gone through all of it, to be honest. I'm
Only 1 inch into the 5 inches.
All right, I'd like to I think we got a direction here. I want to bring this meeting to a close if there's no objections. I'll get with everybody. We'll set up this first committee meeting in the next 30 days or so and get after it. Daniel, we appreciate your time today. Thanks for joining us. It's good information, and I'm sure you're going to get asked the same questions again down the road.
No problem. I'm here for you guys. Y'all need anything, and you guys have my number. Feel free to call me or email me anytime you want. I try to be as responsive as possible to any calls, texts, or emails. So I'm here if you need me or have any questions.
Thank you, Daniel. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor, say aye.